Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are thrilled to have Katharine Halpin, the founder and CEO of the Halpin Companies. Katharine brings a fascinating mix of experience, from her roots as a CPA to over 25 years of transforming healthcare and education systems through her consulting firm. She's helped leaders at all levels align teams, boost revenue, and create people-centric organizations using her proprietary Halpin Method. She's here to share how her founding story, how her business empowers clients in these critical sectors, and her vision for scaling this mission-driven venture. So let's dive right in. Katharine, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. That was
Absolutely.
comprehensive. You have done your homework. I'm impressed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited. I know our listeners are going to love this episode. So to get started here for our listeners, take us back to the very beginning here, Katharine. What
Well,
specific problem in that leadership or organizational landscape really inspired you to start the Halpin Companies?
like you said, I was a CPA. I was a CPA because my dad here in Vicksburg, Mississippi was a CPA, and he put me to work early in my career, like 8 or 9 years old on Saturday
Wow.
mornings, just operating the microfiche machine. And then I graduated to doing data entry. And when I got to be a junior at the University of Southern Mississippi, I was divinely inspired. It couldn't have been clearer if it had been a burning bush or two tablets carved in stone. And the message I got was, you got to get out of here, because he wanted me to go to college. But I can see now in hindsight, he really didn't want me to be a college graduate. He didn't want me to be a CPA. He wanted me to be a bookkeeper because, the gender, he was very racially focused on racial equity, but
Right.
no gender equity in
Mhm.
hindsight. And so I escaped and I finished my degree in Dallas and I got my CPA license and I did everything a CPA could do. I started in tax because I had all this tax background with him. And then I moved into audit and then I moved into consulting. But I really am a people person.
Yes.
And I was so not well suited for the analytical work. And like him, I would spend my days interviewing people, meeting with people, brainstorming with people, strategizing with people. And
Yes.
then at night and on the weekends, I'd have to do the work. And I got burned out really quickly by the time I was 32, 33. It had
Mhm.
impacted my health. And he was deceased by that point. He had worked himself into an early grave at 55. And so it seemed like I needed to find something different to do. And I was so inspired and motivated by the people that I work with about how not to do it.
Mhm.
I had a CPA, a partner in at that time, big eight accounting firm. He told me one time later, he said, Katharine, a part of our training as partners was to how not to be nice to people.
Mhm.
They were supposed to have really strong boundaries, really high expectations, and be really tough on people. And it was a military model, 85% of the people would quit after the first year, and then they would just mold those 15% of the people. And so I was really never happy in any of those cultures. I did have a few really good bosses that mentored me and encouraged me, but I knew overall it was not a good fit. And so first I thought I would go into mediation, but then
Mhm.
through the mediation training, I found coaching. In 1995, I heard
Mhm.
the term business coach, and nobody was a business coach in 1995 much. And there were two coach training schools. So after I heard the term and said, that's what I want to be, what is that? Then synchronistically, I saw an article about career coaches and it mentioned a coach training school. And I contacted that coach training school. It was Thomas Leonard, really the founder of the profession, one of the
Mhm.
two founders. And he registered for me for his school, Coach University at the time is what it was called. Now it's called Coach U. And I just was like a kid in a candy store, so happy to be focusing on these people issues and having more tools in my toolbox. And so I just really imagined I would be a coach. That's what I was going to be trained to do, and that's what I would do, be a coach. And I hadn't done a ton of coaching, but within 6 months, I started facilitating events because I would say to those clients at that time were small business clients with 30 or 50 employees, and I would say to them, these are complicated issues, and you shouldn't try to solve this in a vacuum. Let's bring your team together and I can facilitate the afternoon event, and we'll have some snacks, and at the end of the day, what we leave with will be their ideas, and so that means they'll have ownership of them. They're champions of those changes. And so that worked out really well. And then another 6 months by December, I went full time in January of 1997. I started in the summer of 1995, but I didn't go full time until January 1997. By December of 1997, I was facilitating processes. So that's what I've done for not just education and healthcare, although those are some of my favorite industries because I think they're hurting. I think the people in those industries are hurting today. But I've done it for associations and for professional services firms. Lots of different kinds of organizations will hire me to facilitate a process, typically around growing their revenue, growing their people, and developing the systems and the processes. So that's how I got here today. And I love it, and it doesn't feel like work. And I have no plans for retirement because I have been able to build in the flexibility over the last 30 years or 28 years that I've been self-employed. And now I have a team of people. I have a team of 4 people that can help me deliver the services to the clients. So I don't have to retire because I can just, take time off here, here and there when I want to.
I love it. I love that. Well, on that same front, clearly you've been in this space for so long now. I mean, the amount of experience you have is immense, right? So, as far as what you've seen and what you've heard, what's a misconception that you're often hearing about the business consulting industry as a whole, especially around its value to leaders or its scalability as a business? What's something there that you can address for us?
Well, I had this quote that I got when I was in college, so I had worked my way through the first 2.5 years when I
Yep.
got to be a junior. And then when I went to Dallas, of course, I had to work full time and support myself. So the Hay Group, so I finished at University of Texas at Dallas. And the beautiful thing about that accounting degree was it was all professionals. And so when I took organizational development, organizational behavior, it was a guy from the Hay Group, which was a really well-known company at that time. They got bought out by somebody like Deloitte or somebody. And he gave us this quote, or was in the textbook or something. And it was like, no amount of millions, you can spend millions of dollars on the technology and the systems and the processes, but no amount is going to be effective if you don't have the right people in the right seats on the right, right roles on the bus. And so that I just took that as my mantra, it was all about the people. And I could see that from my career and my dad's career that we were focused on the people, and that's what had, helped us draw people to us. And so I've just always been focused on the people. How can we help everybody find their voice? Because I didn't always have a voice in those big accounting firms for sure as a low-level employee. And I didn't have a voice with my dad either, sad to say. And wasn't like it was his way or the highway, but we just had some conflicts.
Yeah.
And so it was really the best thing for me to escape from Mississippi. Because I tell people I was an indentured servant. So it gives you the mindset I had and the mindset he had.
Right. Yeah. You had to build it on your own and look at what
Right.
you're able to do. I mean, it's incredible. I
Well,
absolutely love it. And it's a
well,
pleasure to have you on and
thanks.
talking to us about your story. So with that, again, so many of our listeners are other founders and entrepreneurs and business owners here. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the
Hmm.
Halpin Companies. I know that you mentioned that really your focus has been facilitating processes for
Hmm.
businesses and companies. So how exactly are you generating revenue today, right? What's the core offer? I know that you have the Halpin method there, and how do you structure it for your clients when they come to you?
Well, typically people come to me because there's some kind of conflict,
Right.
either partners in a professional services firm like architects or engineers or accountants or lawyers. There's some conflict among the partners, or there's some frustration that their people are not delivering
Mm,
the expectations on time and on budget, or there's 1 or 2 rock stars in the organization, but they're so demoralizing to everybody. They've dragged morale down. They're
right.
just so toxic. Or a lot of times, this is shocking, but you can have a 20, 40, 60-year-old company and have a lack of alignment among the leadership team about
Mm,
what is our vision, what is our mission, what are our goals for this period of time. I see that so often. And even if they say they've done that work, there's always people with their own agenda. at the board level, at the executive team level, random key players in the organization, people have their own agendas. And so I call them competing agendas.
Hmm.
Let's build the alignment. So I really consider myself an expert in building the alignment. If we get everybody focused on the same goals, the same mission, the same vision, then the mission and vision will pull people to be their best self. We won't have to push them to be their best self. The vision, if it's compelling enough and exciting enough, they'll be pulled by that. And so they'll just naturally bring their best self and put down their competing agendas and put down their own toxic behavior and just naturally bring out the best in other people, bring out the best in themselves and bring out the best in other people. But if they don't have that lack of that, if there's a lack of alignment, a lack of clarity, then every little obstacle becomes, problematic, and people are standing in the hallway griping about it, or on Zoom chats now if they're remote. Did I answer that question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So I mean, really just being able to go in and again, consult these businesses, facilitate those processes, and
Mhm.
really provide them the structure that they're looking for is what they're coming to you for. So I
Yes,
absolutely love
yes,
that. I love it.
yes.
So on that same front, I know our listeners would love to hear as much as I do here because you've been successful for so long now. So what's working best for you now as far as the acquisition side of things go? So would that be more of referrals, word of mouth? Are you using ads to get new clients in? What looks like what does that look like from the outside?
Well, I've been really fortunate. I have consistently gotten referrals even to this day. And referrals and introductions have really kept me busy and kept my team busy the last almost 30 years. But I did want to, you can't take that to the bank, it's not something that's guaranteed because you can't predict when the next one's going to come in. So I did start in 2024 reaching out to former clients, people that I might not have done a good job staying in touch with, or people that I've stayed in touch with, but it's been more of a social thing. So I'm not a good at the closing the first sale, but I'm a genius at upselling people
There you
because
go.
I can see the potential and I can see the
Yes.
possibility, and I can see patterns and trends. And I'll say, all of you, I hear from all of you guys that, Bob is a problem. Everybody's ranting and raving about poor Bob. Why don't you let me go meet with Bob and interview him and come back to you with some ideas about Bob and his team. So that's how I do the upsell. And then, so it's been really successful recently. I have a call tomorrow, a second call with a client from literally 20 years ago. He's in an entirely different role. He's getting ready to retire. So he's going to bring his number two person to the call because she'll be following in his footsteps. And one of the questions I'll ask her is, do you feel prepared? Do you feel like you have the team and the resources and the experience to continue to carry forward the successes that y'all have built together? So, and we do a lot of strategic thinking partnership with clients. Sometimes they just need us to be in the room with them so they can think outside the box and think
Hmm.
bigger and bolder. That's what we're really known for, helping people be bolder and think bigger.
I love it. I love it. So as far as ads or anything, is that
Yeah,
something you aren't
no, that's way over my pay grade. I couldn't possibly place ads. I wouldn't know where to start,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't know what to say in the ad.
Yeah.
So I do have over 13,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And when I first realized that, I was about at the 10,000 mark. And I was saying to some buddies of mine on a Zoom, I don't even know how you get followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Here I have 10,000. How did that happen?
You're making an impact.
And they said, well, it's your content because my
Yeah.
content is kind of provocative. It's outside the box. Like the most recent article I posted about 60 or 90 days ago on LinkedIn was about the horrors of an ad hoc meeting. If you've worked in big organizations with more than 20 people, then you're going to get sucked in. Somebody's going to come down the hall and say, hey, we got to talk about this issue right now. And let's get Bob, let's get Betty Sue, let's all drop what we're doing and let's get together and huddle, and you could spend an hour or two, and there's no clear purpose of the meeting.
Mm.
Nobody's really thought through what is the problem we're trying to solve. We don't even know if we're the right people in the discussion, because there could be people out in the organization that really know way more than the executives about this topic. So a lot people are having ad hoc meetings all day, every day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just part of business. But I'm saying no, don't do it. Walk away. give
Mm.
yourself give yourself and your colleagues the gift of putting together a process. You can meet tomorrow, but just let's think about who should be in that meeting. Who are the subject matter experts? And who brought this to our attention? So we need to hear from them, and we really need to define the problem that we're trying to solve, and then go from there. So that's, I think, my content's all kind of stuff like that, stuff that you wouldn't imagine that people were actually saying out loud.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, you're still seeing so much success even through that, those referrals and the word of mouth
Mhm.
and reaching back out and refilling the
Mhm.
pipeline with old clients. So, when it does come to the sales process, I know you mentioned earlier that you have a team of four, right? And you guys
Yes.
delivering the services. Is that the full wrap for the Halpin companies, or do you have a sales team as well that's helping you guys out, or marketing?
No, gosh, no. We do our own sales. I'll bring different of my team members to different calls depending on their area of expertise and what I know about the client's needs. And we do give away a lot of complimentary confidential consultations. A couple weeks ago, I did a complimentary workshop for a gal with like 6 employees, 6 people on her team. She
Yeah.
had heard me speak in a Vistage setting where I had done a workshop, a 3-hour workshop. And so she said, could you do something for us in 60 minutes? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So it was all complimentary confidential. So we usually, with that kind of taste, or we'll have a strategy session with a CEO or a decision maker,
Hmm.
to think, okay, let's just get everything out on the table here. What are all things keeping you up at night, and what have you done that's not worked? And then strategize with them. We call that strategic thinking.
Yeah.
So, but we usually do at least one complimentary consultation up front.
Beautiful. Okay.
Uh-huh. And that gives
Very.
people a chance to try it on before making a commitment. And we don't ask people to sign a 36-month contract. We're not change management people. We are driving change, a
Yes.
lot of change, and rapidly and radically impacting KPIs. But it's not we're not laying out a 36-month program.
Right.
I sell a 90-day program. You get value from that, and then you can buy another 90 days. No long-term commitments. Because people report consistently from those complimentary consultations that they leave with clarity, focus, and energy. They get energized, they have more focus, they're clear about the role that they've played in letting the situation occur or letting it fester. So we're going to deliver value in the first session, but I really want people to make a 90-day commitment to really start to align the people in the right roles based on their strengths.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, with that in mind, I'm definitely curious to hear from your side here, because I know, as you mentioned earlier, you don't want to retire. You really want to continue to scale the Halpin companies and continue the success that you're seeing. So, is there a specific bottleneck, Catherine, that you can point to right now, whether that be lead generation or converting those leads into clients or delivering with your current capacity and your team size? What would that look like as far as a bottleneck right now?
Well, the lead generation and the connections with the potential clients and the delivery, that's the bottleneck. And so my goal in 2025 is to remove myself from the direct delivery. My gift is giving people bad news, and they don't even know it's bad news when I give it to them. And so I'm just so soft, so
Yeah.
Mississippi, orient, I'm very hokey, not sophisticated at all. So I'm going to put it in real simple English. So I want to be freed up to just deliver. Once the team has, done our strategic growth assessments and assess the client's situation, and we see a few weak links in the people side, and we see some weak links in their systems and processes, and maybe with their KPIs, they're measuring the wrong KPIs. I've seen that a million times. Okay, you're doing great on your KPIs, but obviously they're not working because everybody's working too hard. So are we measuring the wrong things? So we'll get all that out on the table, and then I'll be involved in the delivery back to the clients in one session or multiple sessions with that message. But then that's the only direct work I want to do. I want to then be freed up to do the
Okay.
consistently do the follow-up and bring people to closing, and scoping out. And I'm pretty good at scoping out the engagements too.
Good.
So I can help scope out the engagements.
Yeah.
But then I want to step aside and then just I have, as a founder, there's two things every founder needs to know
Hmm.
if they're going to change their role. They need to know that their high expectations are still going to be met. The clients are going to have that warm, fuzzy feeling, even though they're not in the room. And they want to know that they're going to be kept in the loop. So, of course, I'm going to want to be kept in the loop and be briefed by the team about what they're finding, but I don't have to be conducting the assessment with them arm in
So,
arm.
yeah. So, I mean, you want your focus to really be on that fulfillment side. That's what what you're passionate about, what you're,
Right,
and
right.
kind of leave the rest of it to the team and partners. So, I mean, it absolutely makes sense there. So, talk to me about what your vision is, right? Let's, hop into your brain here. What are you laser focused on, Katharine, for the next 6 to 12 months, whether that be a specific revenue target or specific impact goals? But what are you laser locked in on for the next year?
Well, my vision for the 30 years I've been in business has been to make work for more people. It so many people at work it does not work for them. It's drudgery, it's tedious, they're not in a role that's in alignment with their strengths. It didn't work for my dad since he had to work nights and weekends his whole career and then died at 55. It didn't work for me when I was a CPA because
Mhm.
again, I was replicating his approach of working nights and weekends to do the analytical work and spending the days with the clients. So I just want to make work for more people. And so for the next 6 to 12 months, I do have some specific revenue goals I'm hoping to hit. And then I would like to, like my brand on LinkedIn is about the education industry and the healthcare industry. And because I think work is especially not working in those, teachers are being attacked and they're not paid well. They're
Mhm.
not, it's just a very tough environment, sadly, for teachers at this time. The classroom environment used to be where the teacher, was the authority figure. Nobody questioned that. Nowadays, even at the college level, I have clients who've retired and then they became a executive professor
Mhm.
and some of the best schools. And yet those students, seniors in college, will walk up to them at the end of the classroom and say, "Here, my mom wants to talk to you on the phone."
That's terrible.
And so, yeah, and then it starts in the first grade too, and if the
Yeah.
parents aren't backing up the teacher. So I'd like to impact those industries in healthcare, of course. I've done a lot of work in healthcare, and it's just people pay such a high price, keeping people alive and healthy.
Yeah. So I do want to go into the lightning round, but I wanted to get your opinion on one more thing before
Sure.
to the lightning round and close out. And that's just what you're thinking about the evolution of the business consulting industry as a whole. Where do you feel
Oh,
it's going,
yeah.
and how are you really positioning yourself to take advantage of that evolution?
Well, especially here in the United States, we're faced with a lot of turmoil and change coming out of Washington, and it's impacting the whole global community, business community. But I think people have to think bigger and they have to think bolder and they
Mhm.
have to get outside their comfort zone and they have to use some new and different approaches, which I've been saying the new and different approaches for 30 years, because that's what the complimentary confidential consultation is to try to test out their openness to experiment with some new and different approaches. But now in this volatile environment, we have to come up with new and different approaches. And so I think the business consulting arena is going to be a growing field, especially in the short term. And then, like every other profession, we'll separate, the people that are able to deliver the goods from the people that aren't. When I say involved in the coaching community for a long time, I was in Phoenix when I got my certification. We were in Phoenix for 29 and a half years. And so very involved in the coaching community. And I would tell people there's 10,000 coaches in Phoenix. And
Mhm.
most of those people don't even know that you can get trained. They don't even know that there's coach training schools. And people would say to me, 10,000, don't you mean 100,000? Because like
Yeah.
everybody in Phoenix was a coach, but had they been trained? No. Did they know they could be credentialed? No. They didn't know any of that. So you have to get yourself trained and credentialed in some way. I have a dear friend who's just getting ready to turn 80. I spoke with him this week. He had his own CPA firm. First, he
Mhm.
was part of a big national firm. He was a leader there. Then he, 25 years ago, started his own firm, grew that to a very good size, like 10 partners and 60 employees or something. And then he sold that to his son. And he went out and got himself a certification in mergers and acquisitions because he knew all these clients that now are ready to sell their companies. And so he got at 79, 80 years old, he got himself a new credential. That's what we have to have. That's the attitude we have to have, a growth mindset.
Absolutely love that. Well, with that right there, let's hop into a quick lightning round. So just a couple questions, just a quick 1 to 2 sentences for
Okay.
listeners here, and then we can wrap up. So the first one, I would love to know what's a tool or a resource that you're using, Catherine, whether it may be a leadership strategy from your CPA days or a coaching technique, but what's been a game changer for the Halpin companies this far?
Helping us help the client take personal responsibility for the situation that's going on. They're ranting and raving, everybody's an idiot, people don't get it, but
Hmm.
I can help them in a 20-minute call, and my colleagues have been trained now in a 20-minute call, help them see what role they played in
Hmm.
letting the situation occur or letting the situation fester. And when people have taken personal responsibility, when they're willing to do that, then there's nothing we can't fix because they're
Exactly.
going to diffuse all the conflicts. So that's more than 2 sentences, but that was a game changer for me when I figured out how to do that in that soft Mississippi way.
Amazing. Amazing. Next is, what is the best piece of advice, Catherine, that you've personally received about scaling a business and seeing the type of success that you've seen?
Gosh, the best advice I've seen, because I've tried a lot of things. In
Yeah.
2003, I franchised my intellectual property to
Oh,
other coaches. Not a good idea. I've just done so many different things. Well, number one, I have to be willing to walk away from doing the direct service. Otherwise, it's not scalable. And
mhm.
that so many founders aren't willing to get out of that role of doing the direct services. One of my first clients was he was spending most of his time in his 25-year-old firm, professional services firm, in doing business development. He was my role model.
Incredible. And then just to wrap us up here, Catherine, I mean, just amazing having you on the show. So just thank you so much again for
Oh, thank you,
sharing so
Jay.
much. To wrap us up here, what is a piece of advice, Catherine, that you can offer to our listeners? So other founders, entrepreneurs, whether they're just starting out or really in the middle of the mix of it, but looking to see as much success as you have, what can you offer them before we head out?
Be introspective. And you'll see over the left of my screen, I have two books, the Respond Not React Playbook and Alignment for Success. I have those in PDF. If people want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'd be happy to send you the PDFs. The Respond Not React Playbook is 9 simple practical time management habits. If you do the first 4, it gives you more white space on your calendar.
Mm,
And then the remaining 5 are things that you can be introspective about, like planning for a meeting. Let me be thoughtful. What is the agenda? What are the outcomes we need to drive to? Or delegating more effectively. Before I go to Bob and unload on him a project, let me get clear on how we're going to measure Bob's success. Just be introspective and get that level of clarity for yourself first so that you can then share it with your colleagues.
I love that. Well, with that right there, thank you so much for that, Kath.
Thank you.
That is going to
This is
wrap
a
up.
joy.
Absolutely. It has been. And that's going to wrap up another episode here of Founders Future. Just thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you. It was an
Absolutely.
honor,
Yes,
Jay.
it was. I mean, you have a remarkable journey and truly appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your insights with us. I know you're going to continue your success. I know you're not retiring anytime soon.
No,
We'll be
no.
following along. I know a lot of our
Thanks.
listeners will be following you and maybe coming and working with you. So it was
I
definitely
love it.
a pleasure. To our listeners, if you did enjoy this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.